the people joining. Thank you for joining on a Sunday morning. And this is likely going to be the time and the day that we're going to have the future sessions as well. So all these sessions are going to be planned for 9 to 11 in the morning on Sundays, right? Alternate weeks. So the first session we had was about 2 weeks ago, and that was on patents for cybersecurity startups. And today we have. So yeah, before I get started, just a quick reminder. So anyone who is not speaking, can you please go on mute? Okay. I think people are going on mute, but otherwise, Abbas, please feel free to mute everybody, and then we can unmute only the speaker. So today's session is the second mentor session, and the focus today is going to be branding for cybersecurity startups. We have a fantastic mentor who is here to share. Who's here to share his expertise with you, and that person today is Mr. Anand Peter. Anand is a director at ADPR. He's also a partner and director at ONI 360 LLP. He is a seasoned communications professional, works very closely with. Can I please remind everybody to go on mute? I think there is still quite a bit of background noise, at least on my end. Abbas, can you please mute everybody?
1 minute.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So as I was saying, Anand Peter is a mentor here today, and he has 20 plus years of experience in branding. And this branding is a very broad area, right? So it includes advertising, digital, social media marketing, events, both online and offline. And he has worked on a variety of pilot projects with clients on a variety of topics, a lot of emerging technology, including AI, ML, deep tech. And his clients have spanned industries, and they include Adobe, Dell, Infosys, Godrej, some of the Indian startups, the big ones, Myntra, Flipkart, and many, many others, right? So they span industries as well. So Mahindra, Narayana Health, Wipro Limited, ITC, and a whole lot of others as well. So he's headed business and business development for multiple companies in Bangalore, India. And so he's been in these roles, supporting various functions broadly in the marketing, branding space for both Indian as well as global clients. So Anand, thank you for joining us, and please take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajiv. Am I audible? I just want to check. Hello?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you for a wonderful introduction. Okay, I'm just going back in time to see, okay, did I done that much? I feel good. Thank you for that. Anyway, thanks very much, Rajiv and Karthik and Abbas for from Cybersecurity team, because Cybersecurity has given us permission to use Cybersecurity branding as an example, because that's much closer to cybersec security. So that is we appreciate that, and definitely congratulations from my heart to all the 21 cybersecurity startups who selected for H.A.C.K Accelerator program. Hope you're all doing well, good, great during this unprecedented time, because it's just been, we can't believe that when 2020 started, we midway through a year we're going to be in this situation. But I think this sometimes adversity help us think about new things. So good that you are selected. That it's a good thing for you, and it's a great news for you. I'm I've been fortunate to take a mentor session. It is to for example, like to guide you, maybe to show you certain things which you are doing right, maybe certain course correction. So it's a wonderful opportunity I would take. We are trying not to disclose much of company's name. There are a few examples which I am going to come in with some startups which I worked with. The reason I don't want to mention that, there are certain cases which are good and confused situations. So we try not to do that. But whoever we are actually mentioning, we try to get permission. And there are certain examples which you may not believe that is true, but there's a unbelievable stories, which I will not name the clients, but things happen like that. So let me. I think my introduction is already done by Raju, so thanks for that. I'm a director partner with ADPR and ONI, and let's get into our subject today. So I'll be taking you through the branding, the logo, the brand guidelines, to what's the process we follow, what is some of the good examples, best practices, way forward. So let's look at all those things. So let's start with the most used or most used term in the world, like branding. So I'm very sure that everybody in this session know what's branding. So maybe I can skip the section, because that is the kind of understanding a lot of all of you will be having. Either you will be doing branding for your company, you'll be in some stage where you already done branding. You are thinking about something more. How do you communicate more to it? Or you should have read about it. You should have got updates on LinkedIn or Instagram on what is branding about post. So the reason I'm not going to skip it, so definitely, let me take you through that. The reason I want to emphasize on that is, when I started my company 2 years back, with around 17, 18 years of experience in advertising and branding, I find myself like a doctor treating himself, because I was clueless. I know I've been talking to clients, I've been guiding them, creating brand guidelines. But then when we start off your own, you really feel that there's something missing, because it's like doctor treating himself. That is the kind of situation I was into. Once I called my creative director, asking him, what is the fonts we use, even to that extent that we get into a situation where we don't know what we are doing, kind of thing. And sometimes there are a lot of blind spots in our place. So I know that there will be situations for you where you need some support, or you need some direction. Sometimes you'll be doing everything right. That is great, but there are situations where you need some corrections. So we'll look at those things. So I'm
Hey,
not
Anand, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, Rajiv.
Yeah. I believe the audio is not very clear for some of them. So maybe can you please speak up or come closer to the microphone, please?
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is much better.
Is it fine now? Okay, fine. I actually kept my microphone a little down, so that's fine. Sorry. Am I audible now?
Yeah, it's much louder now. And
okay.
And just to refresh everybody who's attending, all these sessions, including today's, are being recorded. So we're going to record the entire session, and we'll share them with those who could not make it, and it'll be available online as well. Yeah. Sorry, Anand, go ahead.
No problem. Thank you. So I'm not getting into the branding definition of it, but in a top level, it is people normally connect with identity of a company, of an organization. It is official signature. Like people definitely talk about, this is an identity which you want to bring in. But if you look at from a telescopic or microscopic or a normal vision, it is more than a simple or impersonal thing. People Can't say it is something just like a thing over there. Most of the time, it is real. It is it is personal. You may carry it. You have a brand in your mind. It is so much involved in your life in most of the decision making. So normally, when you look at branding as a term or branding as a function, that is, it is moved away from just design, symbols, or identity or name to tangible and intangible values. I'm emphasizing the word values, like because branding is connected to values. Because there are a lot of examples which I'll be taking you through that. So from an identity, it has come to something which is really attached to your life. Sometimes you wear a T-shirt which carries a brand which you love, or maybe a Formula One T-shirt, for example. Uh, Branding is defining marketing strategies to that extent. It has moved away from your shelf to your mind. It is in your mind. It's so there is logo, there is symbolic things, there is things which you can see, but more than that, there's a feel which is going to come to your mind. So if you look at some of those powerful brands in the world, they have marketed such a way that the moment you just pass through it, or maybe even an aroma of a restaurant is going nearby, you know that what they stand for, what they are in that sense. Now that is the kind of uh, uh, thinking from your perspective you should be moving forward. If it is B2B or B2C, the way how do you really need to go about it. So what is your brands? These are some of the questions which I want to uh, keep it in as a questions to ponder. What does your brand say about you? So down some of those the steps taken by the good brands or the powerful brands in the world, so to build and establish themselves. There are a few good practices which they follow. Like one definitely is about the authenticity. The brand is going to be authentic, genuine. For example, uh, even if you look at uh, a sector, there'll be 1,000 companies over there. There'll be 100 companies who will be doing something similar from a telescopic view or from top level. Even technology, and then you come to security. Then if you come to cybersecurity, now when I look at um, the startup selected companies, various solutions you're providing in terms of behavioral AI to prevent solutions to prevent uh, identity theft, or something which struck me was cyber soldiers. Like so there are even in that you bring in those uniqueness or niche into that particular segment, and uh, there is uniqueness here. You're actually putting across. So there is one example where one of my uh, client has been asking about. They want to start a company, a startup, and uh, after a couple of discussion, they said, "Okay, I just want to know the person who has done the UI UX of this particular company. My idea is something similar, and if I try to replicate that, can I do that?" But I don't think that is how a startup works, because startups are there to start to change industries in that sense. So how you should have done it. So that just reminded me of this particular saying that nobody wants to become a mountaineer, but everybody want to climb Mount Everest. Like you just want to go on top to take a photo option. This is what you want to do. No, you want to actually bring in your authenticity into your brand, and turn something, change something which you want to change in the industry. The second part about the passionate, you're so passionate about it, because that actually shows that actually it's like a magnet which leads attract audience to you. Uh, the third one, your goal or your purpose. Um, you started it for a reason. There are like if you look at just a business goals, people say, okay, I want more customers, I want to get more money, I want to some they will say it's about changing world's problem. For example, if you look at deep tech is about scientific discoveries or meaningful engineering innovations. So if you look at deep tech as an industry, they are not just to be. It's more about something want to change the world, something we need to solve in the world. Similarly, from startup, cybersecurity startup, it's about bringing in safety and security to customers from either from B2B or B2C. So that is where you are. So you have your goal, which is already there. So again, it is you didn't come to this particular situation to be a startup, to change it, not to create an impression, but to make a difference in the community. So that the purpose and your goal really stands out. So that connects with your branding. Fourthly, it's about the audience. Definitely, there are different people out there. So how do you really identify your correct audience and go and reach out to them with the right messaging and the right tone? And the next, one of the other point which I want to uh, emphasize is, in case something didn't work out, not afraid to start over. So if the branding which you think you're doing is not right, you shouldn't be afraid to start over again, because it's about you recovering from what you've been doing and moving towards growing towards what you want to achieve. So it is not just about a perfection. It's always about improvement. How do you really go forward? So these are key things which you should be looking at, since you've been already into branding. Somebody will be starting branding, somebody will be already done branding. So which of these steps will be hardest for you? This is again a question to ponder, and why. So this is again just for your thinking. And another question: a brand is noticed by everyone around you, and what does your brand say about you? So these are the things from a basic introduction about how branding need to be looked at. The most visible part of branding, let me get into the next thing, is definitely logo.
Hey, Anand, quick
Yeah,
pause.
yeah,
I think there's a good time to take a pause. So fantastic, points all around. Starting from what is branding, going from the logos to how does it apply to startups. I just had one question, a broad question,
please. Yeah,
and this is something. This is something that startups, big startups really don't think about a lot. I think, at least in my personal experience. So, what is an ideal time for a startup to think about branding? Because you said that, hey, branding is not just about the logo or the name. It's really about the value. It is about the ambition. It's about the goals. It's about your customers. So it's really the entire life cycle of a cybersecurity startup. I mean, of any startup or any business proposition as such, right? So a lot of the startups here, some of them are in the earlier stages. Some of them are have been around for like 3-4 years. They already have customers and so on. I know you'll get into this later, but how would you say, what should a startup or how should it approach it depending on the stage it is in?
Okay. One word answer is when you have the idea in your mind. So the branding, the attributes, or the brand, the thinking itself, where the moment you conceptualize your company itself, the branding process start with knowingly or unknowingly, because a founder, co-founders, everybody putting partners is going to really think about where they need to position, what is going to happen. So it may not come as the visual identity or the logo or something which you're going to see, but that those aspects, the character, the persona, the attributes, all immediately starts knowingly or unknowingly. So people, most of the founders may be doing it in the back of mind, but actually it starts from there. It should start from there, because there are right question or good question. I think there are some sections in which I'm actually taking through that.
Okay.
So I would say yes, from the moment the idea is formed. the company idea is formed. That is where the branding starts. It may not immediately turn to be the actual what you see out there, but the thinking, because there are a lot of things which I'm going to take you through that. So a very
Okay.
good question. So I think I will emphasize that point. It's a very good point. Let's get into
So it's not just, I think the bottom line summary of what you're saying is, it's not, branding is not just the look and the feel, right, of let's say your name or the logo or your anything else, right, your product slides, your product definition, but ultimately it is about what uh,
Raju, you're breaking. Hello.
yeah, sorry, am I breaking up?
Yeah, I didn't hear the last part, Raju. You
Okay.
can just
No,
repeat
I mean,
that.
I was just summarizing what you said. It's really about, you know, what a particular name or a brand makes you feel, makes the customer feel, right? So if you think about the biggest brands in the world, be it Apple or Nike or Microsoft, all these are tech brands, or the Indian brands, right? If you think of Nestle, Maggie, Amul, they all bring a certain emotion based on their name, based on their advertising, based on their marketing, based on their messaging. And that is something that starts off much before, right, a company even builds a startup, right? It's really about what you want.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly the point. So, the reason I've been so confident about this is, like when I was on the other side, like when um, talking about branding, we know exactly what to do. But when it comes to when the moment I started thinking about my company, there were um, like I felt I'm like no, I don't know anything, because suddenly everything gone blank, because I'm started thinking more from the values to I'll get to that. I think that part I'm going to little more emphasize, because that's going to give
Okay.
you a lot of uh, insights into it. That's something which it's my personal learning, and which I would definitely like to share with it
Sounds
with
good. Sounds good.
team. Yeah.
Sounds good. And I
So
think, and just to make sure that people joining didn't miss out. So at the second half of the presentation, Anand is going to talk about one real example of a branding exercise for cybersecurity, and this is for our center itself, CySec, the Cybersecurity Center for Karnataka, the Center of Excellence. So Anand actually, we worked with Anand's team for a branding exercise. So he's going to walk over the details of all the aspects he's talking about now. He's going to take that concrete example. So so that is definitely there. So please stay around for that. Go ahead, Anand. Thanks.
thank you, Rajiv. Sorry. Yeah. So the most visible part of branding is going to be the logo. People, there are world famous logos. So logo is from a Greek uh, word called logos, and logo typo or something they call it fully. And what is this? Uh, when your thought and your speech, like, and I'm doing it now. So I'm using words. So logo is about it's actually mean word. It also have this thing about idea to expression. So you have an idea and you can express it. So what comes between that? No, it is actually a logo or a symbol or an element or a film or a collateral or whatever it is. Like, so that is the real meaning of a logo. Like, what is in your mind and what people need to see. So it's actually conveys relation between a thought and a speech, or idea and its expression. So that is the real meaning of a logo, if you really want to connect with that. So it could be one of those letter, or it could be a symbol of a fruit, or it could be something else. So it is anything which really connects you to uh, what you want to express from your mind. So that is logo. Now I'll just give you a very quick run through. I've been talking about my company, like ADPR. Now when I shown my logo. This is my logo to a few of my advertising friends, the closest friends. So they said, no. The first question was, where is the logo? I said, this is my logo. So then I realized that no, maybe some of them may be looking at logo mark, because in a logo unit there is sometimes some you call it logo mark and a word mark. So how you write it is going to be word mark, and logo mark is that symbol of it. So maybe that is why they saying it. But I said no. Everything is combined in this. My logo mark and word mark is combined in this. Uh, they said, we don't. We just saw, you just written it like that. I said no. My creative director, who's worked on it, has thought really about it. When we wrote ADPR in various formats, like for example, in this way or that way, we're trying to figure out now how do we really express this. There should be some thought process about it. So it came through, in Infinity, because in one of those art festival, I saw a huge stone, which you just go around it. It shows, it actually captures the infinity kind of thing, and that connects to the letter 8. So so I said no, just because we took an inspiration from that, and the part of 8, one part of 8, we just made it like equally divided, and just added a line to make it A, extended that to make it D, reversed that D to make it P, and deleted a part to make it R. So for example, if you can see I'll just play the video. So that was the base. So it's all formed from that simple circle, which we took it from that infinity and 8. So that was the idea behind it, and nothing else. So I just quickly go through the formation A, D, and reverse, and deleting become R. So there's a thinking behind it, even though it looks simple. We didn't write A in another way of A. So that is the way we actually taken it, formed this logo unit. It consists of
And
logo.
Anand,
Hi. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Rajiv.
So if I may add, I think the first time you showed us, or you showed me this logo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said, yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, it stands for Anand Peter, ADPR.
Okay.
So it has that, and it also has advertising, AD, and it has PR, public relations, which are the
Okay.
fundamental pillars of branding. So
Okay.
I thought it was amazing. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. So there is thinking behind it. I think you didn't ask me that question. I remember, but I actually, there are a few people, more people ask me that question, like where is the logo? So that I took it in my heart. So I think thanks Rajiv for that. No, you liked it the first instance, and you understood the naming, the why we named it. Okay. Thanks for that. Great. So I'm skipping to the. I just want to. These are some few pointers. This is just to give you a hint about how things are done. Take for example FedEx. When Federal Express became FedEx, they redone the logo. It's just a simple written logo unit, but you can see an arrow mark forward between E and X. It's not a hidden thing, but it's the way they done it. For example, the X has been used as a curved X, that arrow mark won't be there. Or if you put X completely on par with E, again it won't be visible. But if you look at it now, the way the placement or the kind of type fonts used all define that. And if you look at E and D of Fed, it's more curvature. There are all reason for the art director to use a curved X, but so that is how it's formed. So the placements or the way you look at things all can change in the simplest of the placement or the symbol of the logo. Accenture, way forward because it's Accenture to the future. Amazon, the most famous smiley, A to Z. It's going from everything under A to Z. You will provide with a smile. They're using that in Prime Videos, Prime Music, everywhere. City, it's legendary story about, it was just drawn on a paper, on a tissue paper, and it actually is an umbrella. It's a shelter, and T is the handle of the umbrella. So there are things, which is hidden, or maybe it's thinking behind the logo, and these are some of the simple, the best recognized logos in the world. So just sort of taking you through to give you a kind of point of view over there. Okay, I'll skip the thing to the name. Name is very important. Sometimes there are various type of name, functional names, and exactly uh, when you look at it, philosophical kind of name, traditional names, some names which are attitude names, some are derived, book my seat or go to this place. The people actually derived from certain different words. There are nonsensical names which are just about some sounds or phonetics kind of thing. So there are various names. The reason why I just mentioned name was when a couple of startups, when I was working, it took almost 3 months to even finalize a name. And after we started working, once I got a call saying that, how do you find this name? I said, it's wonderful. Is it something which you're finding new? No, said, no, we want to change the name. So while we doing the branding, the name got changed. So those are one of those experiences we had. People really, sometimes, they're too attached to the name, how to name it. So that's very important in branding. And uh, another one very close
Hey,
connected
Anand.
to name. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, can we take a brief pause here and do a fun exercise? So I
Okay.
think we have multiple startups attending. Would any of them like to share, how they came up with their name? Like I see Projist, Chaitanya from Projist, Chetak Cyberpack, Mohit, and others. Do you guys want to very very quickly share how you came up with it? Anyone?
Yeah, one second. Yeah, hi,
Hi,
this is Chaitanya
Chaitanya.
here. Yeah. So the way we came, actually, we are still in a dilemma. We have a company name. We have multiple products within our company, and each has its own set of names. So we're still in a dilemma. But yeah, the way we had come up with our name was, it's like, when we started, we wanted to do something on both IT side as well as on infosec side. So not sure where we are going to land. So we decided, since we are going to do something progressive in IT and infosec, so we just named it as Progest, Progressive Information
Ah,
Security and Tech.
fantastic. Okay,
Okay,
very
that's
nice.
nice. Yeah,
And
it's
then
a
whatever
derived
product,
name, right? Okay, it's a derived
yeah,
name.
it's a
I've said it. Yeah, very
derived
nice.
name. And whatever product that we have kind of rolled out, there are four products that we have rolled out. All starts with pro as a starting, and then Pro Demark for Demark, Pro Fish for Pro Fish, Pro Discover, Pro Petrol. So all our products are following the Pro pattern, and then the product name.
Got
Brilliant.
it.
Nice.
Anyone else? I see, well, Securely Share, there is Secura, there is DigiSec 360, Foresight.
Right. Yeah. So for us, Foresight, right? Basically, it's a cybersecurity company providing next level vision, right? So that's the reason we kept it Foresight, because it would be more of a predictive engine or forecasting the future when it comes to cybersecurity. So that's the reason it's Foresight.
Okay, okay. SIET, right?
Yeah.
FORE. Okay, great. Yeah, nice. Foresight. Yeah, and it actually reminds you of foresight in that sense. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, that's pretty nice, interesting. All interesting names. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, fine,
Thought it'll be
great. Thanks. Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts and how you derived your name. That's great. Okay, now I'm getting into tagline. It's very closely related to your name. Uh, Actually, do you need tagline in the first place? That is the first question. Second, if you going for a tagline, uh, it should really connect to the world you're occupying, or your target industry, your future growth, uh, your audience. For example, certain taglines may not work in some geographies. They may have for cultural reason or for some other reason. For example, certain taglines won't work in another country to that extent, or maybe a product in India itself. If it works in South India, it may not work in Northeast India. So you have to be very well aware of when you look at a tagline, it should uh, look at a lot of aspects in terms of culture, your future expansion, all those things put together. So sometimes it is very well defined within certain values instead of claiming anything. So that is something that maybe I'll again come back to that when I go through a few other points. And Okay, let me just take a break from this entire study class kind of thing to give you another example. Like when I've been interacting with a lot of startups for last 3 to 4 years, especially not just about the picky companies, but most of the time we get the first thing comes to us is like, can we create a demo video? And I had a lot of requests about demo videos. Like, so we get into understanding the GTM plan, to why they need it, getting more into product, of what to show, creating the storyboard. So we get to know that no, it's actually sometimes it's not a demo video. Most of explanatory video startups really need. You would need an icebreaker video. The difference between a demo video and icebreaker video is because demo you can maybe show the actual demo of your product in any format when you go for investors pitch or presentation. But what concept, how it going to break the ice or connect with them is you may need to show. Sometimes it's a highly thematic or conceptual video. I may not be able to show some of the videos which I'm talking about, but I can definitely show that offline, or maybe if there is a request, I can definitely, we can share that. But there is a difference between that. Sometimes, most of the time, when you go for pitches or your investor meet, they may know about it, but they just need to know your what is your character, or what is your persona, or how you're different. So that is what the difference between a demo and an icebreaker video. Another story that I want to bring you is most of the 50% or more of the startups I met, uh, I'm talking to them, and suddenly I know that they have another idea and one more idea. I've seen out of 50% have more than one idea, maybe three is the this one, and all of them are involved in all three in different formats. So once, why I even referring this, because once I met a young group of individuals who are like sharp minded. They have three good ideas, and we are doing branding for one. And after hearing them, I said, no, you need to focus on this particular thing, because this is, I think, the most um, urgent and important to you. So you need to get into that and do it. And it was really a success for them, because they actually was called by IIT Accelerator program 2 weeks after that, and they were actually prepared for this out of all the three ideas. So I would say, make your uh, important urgent. There is something called urgent and important. So that is the motto behind it. Focus on one idea just to get it. But if you have three ideas, I think most of those bigger uh, innovators of the world, startups of the world, have more ideas, and it's good. But there are certain situations when you need to know what is urgent and what is important. Okay, so that is just my thought about it, and that's one example I want to give. And
Anand, if I may add, I think that you brought about a very critical point that we should definitely emphasize. This is probably much more relevant to the early stage startups because they are still trying to find the product market fit, right? So they are experimenting with multiple ideas. They're trying to see which one will stick, which one won't. And what you're saying, I think, becomes very important as you go through that pipeline of ideas, right? Where you see, okay, this works, this doesn't work, and that focus becomes very important because otherwise, the startups that we have seen tend to spread themselves thin. And this, I think, is also very particularly apt for cybersecurity startups because cybersecurity, as you would have seen, right, is as I like to say, it's like a Swiss cheese. There are many holes, and the security companies, startups are trying to plug one or many holes. So it's always very appealing. You say that, hey, you're fixing this particular thing in, let's say, privacy, and then you go to a customer and they say, well, this is good, but I also want, A, B, C, X, Y, Z, right? So then the startup or then the founders say, oh, maybe this is not enough. It's not enough if I have just one knife. I need a whole Swiss Army knife of multiple solutions, and then that's how this journey begins, where you start focusing on multiple things, right? So what you're saying is, even from a branding exercise, although it might not be apparent that branding actually makes you focus, it is something that absolutely does, right? The urgent versus important that you're pointing, because from a branding perspective, the story that you need to tell, if you start telling the story and, if there are 100 characters in the story, you really can't keep the audience engaged, right? So, so I just wanted to highlight that point.
Thank you for that. I think you got it. I know that it's a little away from actual branding kind of thing, but this is something which as I said, this is not a session of, I'm taking a case study or class kind of thing, because it's more of a experience I'm sharing, because I maybe even if I look at the 20 startups or 50 startups I worked with. So this is a couple of, a lot of things which are unbelievable, some are believable. So there are actual experiences I can putting forward. Yeah.
Right. So I would say that it actually, what you're saying ties, branding sort of brings in this focus, right? That is where I was, at least that's what I am learning. Because otherwise, for somebody new, they might think branding, what has that got to do with product market fit? But once you're trying 10 different ideas and then you go to, let's say, your company and they say that, okay, what is it you're building? And then I come to you with 20 different ideas. There is no story, theme, logo, tagline that you can actually, meaningfully fit. Then it becomes very generic, right? So what I see is that branding actually forces the founding team, the startup, to actually focus rather than to sort of diversify and dilute.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks for strengthening that point. I think that's a good thing. Absolutely. That's right. Fine. So I'll get into the next one, which is again extension of what branding, why you need a brand guidelines in the first place. Now, this one I had 25 examples, but I would maybe just give you one or two, just to give you the, it really happens, it again, unbelievable stories, but definitely brand guidelines going to define a lot of things in your branding or communication journey forward. So it sets your vision, your tone of voice, in what tone you to communicate, definitely it shapes your identity. The look and feel is going to be there. The kind of icons you're going to use, the colors or the gradients which you really bring into your website, app, collaterals, videos, anything, or social post, the kind of fonts you're going to define, the typography. So all those things are going to be defined in one thing. It's a guide which you will go back and check it out. And when you're interacting with more than 2 or 3 agencies or designers, they can also follow that. So that there is no difference between one collateral, your website, your infographic, your social post, to your video. So in a way, it looks from the same family. It brings consistency in that thing. Maybe I just covered that. It saves time and money. There is a reason, because after 6 months, you go back and see all your collaterals and everything looks different, and you may have to redo it. So that's going to save you time and money. Redoing it, reinventing yourself. And more than that, you don't need to break your head on things, because you will be focusing on products and markets. Other side, since a lot of things are set, people can uh, do it, with just referring to that. And you will be also considered a serious player in the market, because the entire communication, your collaterals, the way you talk to people, everything is consistent. It will definitely, you'll be a serious person in the market, and also help you during the investors meet. So these are the best practices which you can look at. One example which I want to, why I've been emphasized on this was a Southeast Asia company, which is in payment. I think they're the big. I got a strange request almost a year back around this time, which says that we have a brand guidelines. Okay, I said fine. Now what do you want me to do? Okay, this is our app design. Okay, I saw that. I said, no, why it is looking different?
Hello, Anand.
Hey, yeah, looks like Anand, can you hear us? We lost your audio. Okay. I think we have lost Anand. He'll be trying to get back online. So meanwhile, maybe let's take a 1 minute, 2 minute break. I'll just go and call him and see if he's having any issues. Yeah. So let's take a 2 minute break and reconvene at around 9:55. Okay, so Anand got disconnected. I just spoke to him. He's joining back. So it'll be a minute before we get started again. Am I audible? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Rajiv, I think I'm not sure where I lost
Anand, can you hear me?
So yes, very well. Hi, Rajiv, I can hear you. Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Anand. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
Okay.
Okay, I'm
Why
not
don't
sure
you
where
share your slides? Yeah,
Yes.
why don't you share it?
Okay, you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
go back a couple of slides. Yeah, I think we lost you here.
Okay, fine. So I was, did I mention about the that case study where there were two different brand guidelines and we were trying to solve the
Yes,
problem?
yes. You've
Did I
mentioned about
completed that or? Yeah.
well, yeah. I don't know when others lost you, but I lost you at they showed you the app and they were asking you something about the brand guidelines.
Okay, fine. So, okay, let me just rewind that a little bit and then quickly come to the next one. So here, why we emphasized on brand guidelines and follow that is of this particular example, which I was referring to, where a payment gateway company in Southeast Asia had I got two requests. One, the brand guidelines. Okay, they want to update the brand guidelines, and then I saw the app. Finally, it was like combining both to create a different brand guidelines, because 50% of the board of directors like the brand guidelines and other likes the app design. Now they want to combine it. Both worked by two different agencies, and they're not talking to each other. They said, no, why didn't you share the brand guidelines to us? And the brand guidelines said, no, why didn't you follow the brand guidelines we given you? So there was a complete fight. So I was called in to solve or give the right solution. And I don't want to get to what happened after that, but these things can happen when we maybe we have a brand guidelines and we don't follow that, or we don't understand the usability of that. So these are things very important when and it, as I said, it can save cost and time and money, everything in your in a long term. No need to reinvent yourself, no need to redo things. So these things are best practices. One of the best practice for which I want to put in front of you is, for a global product company which I worked with, they had this particular format called core content document. Now this is mostly is a written document which before the launch of the product happened, 6 months prior to that, we at agencies team, writer, we all sit together with the team to create this document which has key messages, the description of that, short description of the product, medium and long term descriptions, key pillars. For example, is it about saving cost and or productivity, or we've identified those pillars, also list down all the product features, so that that's a final document for anything, either from the communication point of view or from creating an emailer, or to for anything which connects to as a referral guide for that. So this is a very good best practice or which I've seen, and it's been successful in the way it made things simpler and process driven. So a lot of people will think that no, brand guidelines need to be like so exhaustive, because I have seen 100-page brand guidelines, I have seen 25-page guidelines. So it's better to have a basic brand guideline, so that no, it covers, as I said, those tone of voice, to the fonts, to the colors, to the key things, and we can slowly evolve as you grow to the next level. So that is something which you can definitely look at. Okay, coming back to another story of a confused execution, because this is something which I think I just covered it with the previous example, where I told you about two different brand guidelines which has come to us and we sort it out. Okay, so I think I just already told the story. So okay, what I came to my mind was, I was reading one of Einstein's quote. It's like the perfection of means and confusion of end seems to be the characteristic of our age. So they're very good in process, but or efficiency, but effectiveness was suffered. Like, what is the larger picture? They missed it out. So I think this all learnings, but we'll be definitely able to go beyond that. Another part to it is some of the startups which I met are now very highly sales focused. Now it's not good, but it normally keeps you at a certain level. It'll become always a startup kind of mode. in not the extreme side, it's like, you are still, I've seen this company for the last 6 years and they're still the same thing. Every 1 or 2 years they come and talk to me about doing this kind of activities, and they still go back to the sales as their motto. So I want to name it as always a startup move in that scene. Sales is just a part of marketing. Definitely you need to look at larger picture. Another aspect I want to bring in is branding also. In his all his values and core or the characteristics, there is something called PR, which a lot of people misses out. PR is like, public relations. There's a saying that PR is what you do and publicity is what you get. So publicity can be negative and positive. Because sometimes you don't need to do a PR, you will still get a publicity which is positive or negative. PR approaches, normally when you look at PR, you may feel it's pretty confusing. It is all about the headline. What is the headline is going to come tomorrow in the newspaper about you? So that is what you should be looking at, and how do you really work towards creating that? In a way, it's a part of branding, because your brand is going to get established. People are going to talk about you. It's not your advertising is about you talking to people. PR is about somebody talking about you, putting a report about you. So there are various ways you can do PR. For example, like you can conduct a knowledge workshop with your partners, associates, and invite press for that, and they can cover certain aspects about cybersecurity. So if media finds something important, a good story, they'll pick it up. You don't need to really push it. And it's only about organizing certain events, or how do you really plan it in terms of giving that right information, making your stories more appealing to media. You're there. People are going to cover you. Some tactics, for example, press releases are there, press launches are there, maybe media roundtable we can look at, or knowledge workshops. These are the things which you can really look at, looking for the PR thing. Okay, one more story. I don't again trouble you with more stories, but this one I really want to give you this particular example is 3 years back we started branding for a B2C company, which is good in that particular technology aspect. Very new. They are into transitionary phase or experimental phase. Within 6 months, their positioning has changed. It's gone from B2C to B2B. In 3 months, again, it gone back to B's to C and B. Then it gone back to C, then to B. And funding was a problem. Positioning was a problem. Too many things are happening. I would really say that the way they came out of it, the founders really stood to what they believed was right, and they got funding recently. But the thing is, the way they navigate through that entire storm was brilliant. And there are chances, as you said, maybe your positioning. Rajiv just mentioned about that, where when you meet a client, or for a meeting, they said, okay, why can't you do this? And you try to add that, but these are challenges you're going to face. But then you really can. Sometimes your product evolve. You yourself don't know after 6 months, and it's gone from A to B to C. So this is something which I just sort of connecting, and that's exactly my next part. What does owners think of their brand, or why founders should define their brand values and principle? Now, this is
hey
yeah.
Anand, quick time check. It's 3 minutes past 10.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll just remind you that if you can quickly get to the Cybersecurity branding exercise. Yeah.
No problem. So I will take another 2-3 minutes to cover this part, just to maximum this one. So by 10:15, we should be able to even complete Cybersecurity. Rajiv, hello. Hello, Rajiv. Hi. Okay. So from founder's vision, what I into sales, we understood that it's more than branding, logos, fonts, colors, and icons, defining the tones, the values. Uh, okay, I'll just give one example here, because what I meant by values is how you're dealing with people, with the society, with certain values you keep. For example, some companies decide that, no, we don't take cash in any dealings. That defines your value. That will also reflect in your branding, because in case any of a person of your company taken cash and that report came in the newspaper saying that, no, this company has done something wrong, it is adversely affecting your branding. So these are the things, which will definitely going to be, so branding has a lot of aspects to it. Your brand value can come down in case something bad happen. And the way you talk to people, one of the companies which I worked with, they said, no, they will never use anything like claiming we are the best in our product is the best. No, we'll not do that. So that is what, you said, if you have a value that, no, we don't use anything like that, that defines your brand values. So it will also connect to the founder's personal branding, because personal branding is something which is also had to work sidewise. In terms of perception, you should be seen as a thought leader. Maybe you would be posting regularly on about innovation on Twitter, or maybe you put your point of view on a particular article. So these are the things, you really connect to the personal branding part. So summary, yes, branding, communication, promotional things, PR, which I looked at, your vision, values. So all those things put together is the thing. I'll skip the secret sauce, because this is something, which I get calls on. It's another story. I'll skip that. One more thing. This I've been seeing for such a long time, because a lot of startups are worried about working with an agency. They said, no, why? Because there are a lot of challenges, because they don't understand us. We don't have the patience. They don't have the patience. They don't understand our space, or we don't understand what they talk. So there are a lot of issues happen in that. So one of the thing was like, agencies who really work closer to the client and they involve in product, during the product development part, that is when the partnership really forms. And so that is actually, like, even stepping into the shoes of the client in terms of understanding them well. Because I heard a case study about a car maker and an agency, how they partnered for 3 years, including the research, the product innovation, product development of a scooter kind of thing, in an electric scooter in another country. So there are things, which we can do. So one of my experience was, I was doing a branding for a dance studio, and I even learned a little bit of dancing to understand it better. Because it doesn't mean that I learn coding to work for Infosys, but we do a lot of research or reading to that. So we really step into the shoes. And another thing is about the messaging part. It is BizTech language. It is not just business, and it's not just a technology. It is BizTech language. That is how you normally craft your message. The reason why we need to look at crafting your message when you go out to people outside is, for example, if you look at the top priorities of CXOs, there are reports which comes in a lot of website. Automation was 8th, and recently cyber security came number 1. And if you look at the top priorities, again, automation gone to 4th, security came first. Now, why I'm talking about this? Because you can address your message to C-level executives about what's their concerns. For example, a line coming like this, that top CEOs concerns are 50% of global top CEOs concerns are cybersecurity. So you can create that as your headline. That is about the tapping into consensus of it, where other people are doing, so I want to do it. But that is one way of doing it. You can also look at the benefit or the uniqueness of your product. That way also you can communicate. So that is how you really look at drafting your messaging around it. So you can definitely escape the noise. And okay, I'm just getting into Cybersecurity branding. Before that, why I just want to bring in branding, advertising is more about madness and creativity, but there is a process connected to it. For example, there is a template which we follow either on videos or campaigns, so that we document that, and we can be referred later for different things. There are various processes, and if you do a video production or any of the campaign, there are different processes we follow. But then definitely creativity is more than that. Even these are there as a guidelines. We still go ahead and try to think differently and do it. For the next, I think another 5 minutes, I'll take you through Cybersec branding exercise, which is one of those recent thing. Again, it's connected to cybersecurity. We actually,
Anand, you can actually take the next 20 or more minutes, right? Do we have time? So why don't we actually pause for a second? I think there is a question on the chat window. Riaz has a question about the story of your B2B and B2C conflict, right? Where they figured out through the branding exercise how they want to do it. So he wants to know, Riaz.
Okay, yeah. I know I'm not seeing the question. Let me just go back. Is it there in the box chat window? Okay.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. He just wants you to share what was that take and how did they solve that B2C to versus B2B.
Okay, so there are two examples. One was the brand guidelines issue, and second is about ever evolving product. The product was changing. So which one, Riaz? If you can just let me know.
No, you said you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned about they were focusing on a B2C, then they changed to B2B, then again they came back, and there was some challenge in terms of getting investment, the issues they had, right? So how did the outcome, like what was the outcome and how did they solve that issue? That's what I thought I've asked.
Okay, so great. I think good question. So as a branding agency, we guys will go nuts. Because we do a certain tone in setting everything, and suddenly we know it's become B2B. So either from colors, everything we're going to be challenged. But my focus was more, as you said, your concern is about how do they solve it out. So we understood there is a challenge which client is facing in terms of what is happening behind. So because we've been so pampered in terms of the way we work with corporates and piggies. Where a lot of things are streamlined, process controlled. We don't need to bother about it. Like changing of goalpost. So here, in a couple of meetings, I was a bit of curious. I understand from talking to the startup founders. They are facing more problem than us. They when they've gone for presented to investors and to prospective clients, they started giving inputs and they had to change it. And finally, they changed that entire thing to B2B from B2C. What was supposed to be doing in B2C, they had to change it to B2B. And while they're working on that, there is another input or something which came to their mind, or with the founders conflict, where they want to bring in B2C also as a separate subsection to it. And the entire aim was doing how do we really balance between that and this. Okay, now for us, again, it's a problem because we are completely confused now from every aspects, from the tonality to colors to fonts to the messaging, everything is going to change. Then again, I think a couple of rounds into this changing of meeting investors, they're giving it this fund. They also got into accelerator program of one of it. So I think they got clear vision of that particular thing, and they were 100% focused that time. They said, no, this is going to be B2B, and we're going to do this particular thing. We're not going to change our positioning, and they really focused on that particular thing. And they said, okay, B2B is our space, and they looked at governments or different organizations to really utilize that particular functionalities, and they're pretty successful in that. Only thing pending was they're getting that funding or something, but I think a couple of months back they got funding, and pretty happy with that because we've seen them progressing, coming down, and the curve going up, again coming down, and it helped them taking the right call. I think the credit has to be given to those founders who really stick to they believed in their product. They believe that they still going to make it. I should have gone back, okay, because in the way things were shifting day by day after other. But This is something, it's more of a gut feel, a determination, or grit which you really hold on. Yes, we're going to make it, and we know that the world has asked us to change 1, 2, 3, 4, but we know we're going to be successful. I think that is the takeout, I would say. Definitely, everybody around had a problem. Like we also have a problem because we couldn't help them get to the next one. So there is some issues also, but finally it was successful.
Thank you very
Oh,
much. That's a great input. Thank you for
okay.
sharing that.
Thank you. Thanks, Riyas. Yeah. Okay, Raju, can I go to Cybersec now?
Yes, please. Yeah, please.
Okay, fine. Okay, Cybersec, we said no, we'll do a brand guidelines thing where it's going to define most of the visible aspect to it, and we're going to create brand guidelines, which will also help Cybersec to standardize the collaterals, including social media posts to PPT templates to everything. Like, so this is a kind of exercise which you want to get in. We looked at initially from vision statement, mission statement, and talking to Karthik and Abbas in terms of getting, defining the attributes. If you look at attributes of a brand, it's something similar to a person also. What are your attributes? I can see you as a person, but there are certain things which defines me. So here it's about thought leader. It's about partnership. Giving a conducive environment to the startups, building ecosystem or connecting with government. So there are various aspects to it. So these are those things which these are the inputs in that sense. We looked at personas, what are the promises, what are the purpose of the brand, what are the benefit partners and collaborators going to get out of it. So we look at those part. We created we listed down a lot of keywords, created a word cloud in terms of what are those highlighting points. We explored a lot of spaces. These are not messaging exercise. This is logo brand exercise. So we even think from a communication point of view, what is that we need to communicate? Is it going to be cyber crime, cyber security? So if it's about cyber crime, it's about an invisible enemy coming and attacking us. If it's about security, then we are going to combating the cyber crime. Looking at the vision statement about enabling cyber safety for all, and then we figured out it's about democratizing technology. So there are various things in spaces we've been exploring, and again the brief was a little more clearer in terms of what to represent. Is it about technology, multi-layered, cutting edge, or the software side of the brand? For example, you help grow, you excel in technology, you bring in that trust and authenticity, we bring in collaboration and partnership. So there are various things we have to look at and evaluate. So we looked at things and divided that into 4 different categories. One is softer side, what it should be symbolizing, what is the abstract takeout of it, and what it should represent. So again, going back to the softer side of it, I see a person. He is tall. He got black hair. He smiles, but the softer side, he's happy, or he encourages people. He empowers people. So those are the things which are characters. So similarly, for some people, brand also have to bring in that softer side to it. The moment you see something, a brand, or you interact with a brand, you feel that there's something good about it. So that is the thing. And there are certain abstract meaning to it. When you see a person, you see that he is happy, he is tall, he is black hair, all those things. But there is something which you feel there is something an abstract takeout of it. You have some qualities which you take out of it. So we look at all those aspects. So that is how we build this logo mark. So the logo mark, in a way, it was an upward movement. You can see an arrow going up towards right on top, and it also represents different aspects to it. So I'll come to that. So this is the logo mark we worked on, and the next is about the color we want to bring in. The Cybersec logo. Now, the color was mostly to bring in that enlightenment or positive or purposefulness. The fonts, we looked at it as a kind of modern twist, also a technology connect, and it shows that we used sans serif type of fonts. After that, when we looked at the logo unit again, we done a basic research in terms of what all things we intend to be achieved. Is it coming out? So it shows that the upward movement signifies the growth. We also figured out that there is that the lines are about technology, the chip design. The overall look is like a shield, which represents safety. And something which came out of the research, or it came out of was, it looks also like a fingerprint. In from left to half of it, it's a part of a fingerprint, which is actually representing security. And since Cybersec is about multi-layered, multi-solution, multifaceted, so it brings that entire multi-layered thing. And it's also a cube, even though it looks, the larger part is about it's a shield. It's actually a cube in that sense. So there is various thing. If you just look at the logo, it brings out of it. Because I had actually missed out the fingerprint part to it, because that was told to me by one of the research. We found out that there's something like that, somebody seeing it. So the more you see it, you may come up with another 5 more abstract meaning to it. So that is how a logo really go one what it represent to creating more meaning to it. So that is one of those aspects. We also had an idea about making this particular thing transparent, so that it shows the transparency in dealing. So so that is another idea which we actually shielded it, but we're going to get into that. So this is how we actually worked on the logo and the entire unit. Another thing, it's also represented as a seal, a trust element. So we use the left-hand side thing as a seal on envelopes, so, and also on the letterheads, so that it actually seals and gives that confidence to you. And this is the whole logo lockup, you call it, the logo unit. We have the word mark, the logo mark, the tagline, and since Cybersec is a derived term, for initial months we want to actually keep Cybersecurity Karnataka as a supporting thing over there. So we just kept it over there. And this is the animation, intro animation we want to create. I'll just keep it. Okay, one. Okay, I think it's gone back to this mode. 1 second, I'll just put a full screen. One second, I'll just go back to the screen. Okay, so after the logo, we also looked at the entire color tone. When we start to use the gradient, what is the range we need to look at, from where to where, how the colors need to be defined, looking at the primary colors and the secondary colors. And especially we created iconography, or we call it icons, for specifically for Cybersec. So the moment you see these icons, in some time, in long term, you know that this is from Cybersec. So we define the logo style. So each and every element has to be created in that, and the typography, what type of typography you're going to follow, and when we look at how it's extended to the collaterals, definitely to all the stationaries. If you look at the letterhead, you can see the seal or emblem which has been established below the letterhead. We had this idea about the back of the letterhead will have the design element over there. So mostly the most important messages are going like that. And even when you open the envelope, you can actually see the design element inside. We even to an extent of the PPT slides has been done, the certificates to the social media post, to everything. There are a couple of things which I'm not able to show because of the imagery which we are using. We are finalizing that. So there are this is like creating a kind of connect in every aspects, every branding or visible aspects we can see. So what is that from logo to branding, and from branding to extending to all the collaterals and communication assets. And once you do that, you going to use it in your communication phase. What I mean by communication phase is where you have your flyers to your collaterals to your social media posts to your films, and also when you actually push it through your promotional, where you spend money on putting it across in different media. So that is how you're going to take it. So final thing is about people to see it, and prior to that, you want to fix everything step by step, process oriented, so that actually you're doing the right way. And because tomorrow we look at it, it will be visible in some 5 or 10 different media channels or social media. You should have consistency. You should all the touch points should have a similar look and feel, or the tone should come in. So your entire branding, the brand will be much more powerful and be persistent. So that is the ultimate goal of where you should be going to, or where you should be pushing to. So I think Rajiv did. I almost done. And we can definitely connect offline in case if you want to see more work which I've been talking about, and you can reach out to me on any of these IDs, or you can, this is my phone number, you can note it down.
Thank you, Anand. So let's pause here and see if there are any specific questions from the audience.
Okay.
Okay. So I guess there are no specific questions at this point, but
yeah, I think I heard.
Rajiv, this is Karthik. Yeah.
Hi, Karthik.
So Anand, just one thing I thought you can also cover is rebranding. A lot of times organizations go through rebranding typically when their strategy changes, or when some of their focus areas change, right? So
Absolutely.
can you explain that, and when should the organization look at rebranding? What are the typical what's the right time when you should look at rebranding yourself?
Okay. That's okay. I think I not covered that much, but definitely that's a valid point. I think it's very good. So okay, I had worked on few rebrandings for bigger corporates. I think almost couple of years into existence, some companies look at rebranding even from logo to that extent, or maybe highlighting or fine tuning their existing collaterals look and feel, keeping the logo intact. So these are two ways you look at it. The reason why they do that is initially when they set up the company, they should have done it in certain formats. Maybe they don't have that entire wisdom of how they're going to go forward, but they should have done something with proper reasoning. But then a couple of years down the line, and they seen new styling emerged, new things has emerged. The company has also moved from their existence to thriving and going and reaching out new boundaries. So they definitely go for this. So two things. One is people who doing complete logo itself changing. Second is from the look and feel, keeping the logo intact, but everything else going to change. Or even from the color tone, they improvise, and in the fonts they reinvent. Maybe they'll create their own font set. So all those things can happen. Now, as I said, no, the reason could be various. In case of they themselves find that they're in a different position, or they are changed their the way they done it. And the challenges which I'm seeing while doing that is again the what you call the consistency in terms of getting that particular thing. If there are too many people taking the decision, there is going to be changes like can we do the change the logo, can we, but we can't do much change in the logo, but can we do minor change in the logo? So that is one challenge. The other part is what is where we want to reach out to. For example, like where recently one of those SAP companies, again it's a European based company in Singapore. So the challenge was just almost everything remained the same, including the logo, only the color tone has changed, but the collaterals has improvised, or the way they use the what you call the structuring has gone changed drastically. Even the fonts they used, the photograph style, they from A to B. Maybe they moved away from direct photography to reportage photography, and they also started using illustrations instead of photography. So these are the things they want to actually change it. So rebranding is something which it's a company's decision in terms of when they want to do it. Maybe it can even happen in 6 months, because initially you really have this hustle and grind in terms of creating that particular thing, and after 6 months you reached a particular position, and that yes, this is the time, and let us go back and review everything and see where to make it better. So I think I just want to cover this larger part, because there are too many deep nitty-gritties into it, but I think I covered a larger part. If you still have question, please clarify. Karthik, if you think this is a fine answer, or you think some more points need to be addressed?
No, I think that is good, Anand. Thanks.
It's fine. Okay. Because there are, as I said, it's a little, there are a lot of variables. So it is actually need basis kind of thing, especially, and it is also like the exercise is also a little bit of a tedious process, because there'll be a lot of it's mostly it won't be objective, it's mostly subjective. Like people they still like something from the past, and that is something which really be a hurdle in the future thing. Those are situations like where they still like some things which they don't want to change, but without changing that you can't do this new one. So there are emotional connects also there. So there are a lot of things to address, but it's a good challenging exercise. Yeah.
And Anand, there's Nanda from DigiSec has shared her perspective on the chat.
Okay.
So I would, Nanda, can you please share that here?
Hi. I just wanted to share my opinion and the experience as well. So when we initially started DigiSec 360, financial constraint was a big problem. When we tried to talk to some branding agencies, their fees were very high, which we couldn't afford, So then we had to go to some graphics designer who can give us some logo based on his expertise. And in over the 1 year, we end up changing logo twice. I think these agencies which helps startups when it comes to the financial or their charges are very, very high. So what is your suggestion for early stage startups where we can get some economical and best way or some do it yourself thing for startups like us?
Okay, it is a very practical question because I think you gone through that and
Yes.
you find in a situation where what you really want to do, even though you need to create a logo or do the branding, one side there is constraints, and that constraint is there for everybody. Yeah, it is. That's become a new norm, I think, because that's one thing. Second is when you doing it and you're still spending a part of money, even whatever it is, it's not giving the desired result. So am I getting that correct? Is the points are
Yes.
clear? Okay, fine. So now what's the solution? So there is no solution kind of thing. So here what you need to look at is very simple, like, so you said you changed it twice, the logo, and you figured out now there is something which is not the way it should go, and it's there's something called sunk cost fallacy. Like, you go to a movie spending $500, and for 10 minutes into it, this is not what I want to see. You will not, just because you spend 500 rupees, you will not sit through it, right, for 3 hours. You will come out of it. So that is exactly a lot of people don't do, where they get into a branding, and they spend, even though they not spend 100 but they spend 50. Just because they spend 50, they say, okay, we will keep on doing it, and finally after some time, they will figure out there's something wrong, and they come back, or they lost time rather than money. So the thing is very simple in terms of see, branding, as you said, there are some 25 things around it. Now, what is important for you, you can define that. For example, if it's just a logo thing, you immediately feel that you need to go forward, or you look at it from a completely holistic perspective, where you want to define it initially, and then once you define that particular goal, like, this is my larger objective, rather than just solving one part of it, and lock a certain money to it, because it is, if you work with a certain agency who help you, guide you, they will not just do a logo and go. As you said, no, maybe a illustrator or a designer, they will look at from a logo point of view. They will not look at from the larger picture. So first thing, the most important thing is to get that perspective of what is that, what is the larger thing I want to do in 6 months or 1 year, and right now what is that I should start with. Okay, maybe I will stick to just logo and just do basic collaterals and keep it over there, and then I will get the right fit agency, where you can talk to different agency, either from branding or from advertising or from PR, or just to understand that particular goal. You should find a partner rather than somebody who just do a design. And the money, even if you spend the least of the money for a logo or to a designer, is still money going out. So and then locking a certain budget for the next 6 months or 1 year, and you see that, okay, maybe in 3 months I'm going to spend this much money, or in the 3 months I'm going to add this much in the budget. So it's more from an intention point of view, because while I was talking to another startup entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, she was talking to me, right? If I had more money, I should have done this. I said, because it is not about that. Even if it's 1,000, 10,000, or 1 lakh, it is the intention, how you do that. So you lock that money, or you lock that budget. This is important, and how do you really not fall into that sunk cost fallacy, where you still find something, but there's no value. So the thing is, larger picture is should be there, and define what you want to do immediately, and just do that. And in the meantime, talk to people to get more ideas in terms of how to go about it. Maybe a couple of agencies, and decide somebody, and let them be a partner. And you can even negotiate cost with agencies who really want to become a partner. They don't see the short-term gain. They won't say, okay, fine, I just want to get this much money and go out. If they become a partner and you grow together, like they will be guiding you in every step of your journey. Hope I'm answering your question, or is it still?
Yes, I think we are doing the same now. So thank you for detailed answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Hey, Anand, I have a question about brand monitoring. Okay, so our product has the future of a brand monitoring. What we do is like we discover all the emails on the internet, social account on the internet, and sensitive data on the internet. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I've just asked the question because you're the right person to answer these. So what are the items in terms of like branding is intellectual which can be monitored?
Okay, I didn't get the question actually right. If you can just give me that brand monitoring, what you do for monitoring?
So what are the sensitive data in terms of branding materials or branding intellectuals? What to be monitored for the branding value to be maintained, not to be duplicated or not to be, publicly visible items?
So Anand, maybe I'll add some more context to that, right? So Riaz, so what I think Riaz is saying is that there is maybe a sector in the cybersecurity companies that help banks and let's say e-commerce companies and anyone else, right? They offer the service called brand monitoring, which essentially means that if someone, let's say that I make a fake Flipkart page, right, website, right? And today it's very easy to, it's easy to at least get started with it because, all your graphic elements can be copied over and you can host another website and, create some name that looks like Flipkart, but it is not, things like that, right? So that is one. And then, so in your websites or for your emails, all these digital things can be spoofed to a certain extent by copy pasting a lot of your branding elements, which, be it your logos or your banners or your names, a lot of these things, right? So I think that, Riaz, is that what you're asking? So from that perspective,
absolutely, Raju. Thanks for detailing it. Yeah, exactly. So there are brandings which can be duplicated or it can be spoofed, right? So there are agencies who are monitoring those items. So my question to Anand is, what do you think as a sensitive data which need to be monitored for the branding perspective?
Okay, so anything, for example, I shown Cybersecurity as an example. If somebody copying anything closer to that and try to replicate that is a IP and legal issue. So I knew about brand monitoring agencies. So who has tracking tools which could help them. But so I would say anything related to your brand, if somebody is copying, it is against law, rule, everything, even the tone of voice. If you in the tagline, if you twist it and make it different, the colors, matching the colors, and or maybe the look and feel, everything. So, and even if you look at the images which you're trying to use on your website, sometimes you shoot your own images based on the style you approve on, or you buy it from external sites. Now, when you buy it, you really need to get a license for that image, and you can use it. So sometimes, if it's a royalty-free image, a lot of other people should have also used the same kind of images. But then, if you shoot it in your particular way, your own shoot, and somebody's taking your image, then it is it's a conflict. It's a legal issue. So monitoring should be anything and everything related to your brand. It's a look like a person. Like, I can definitely mimic you, the way you talk or walk. That, I can't put a case against. But then anything related to me, my even my pen to my notebook to anything I using, if you take it, it is against that particular thing. So brand, as you said, it is you build it up. It is your character, your values, your property, and you should actually try to get registered trademarks, for maybe your logo to your in your website. The content which you're putting over there, it's all copyrighted. So somebody copying and pasting and selling it for their use is all against rules. So if you look at my presentation, I had not included none of it. Maybe just some logos, not to commercial benefit of it. So somebody using your logo or anything or in any assets for benefiting of their or commercially is against IP, legal regulations, everything, anything. One small example is like we do work for companies in US in different sectors for creating a lot of illustrative imageries, which are like of high value, like not even like just beyond imagination. So they are very particular about things. They simply can take it and redo it, but they get the legal agreement for using that imageries. They pay a high value for worldwide usage or whatever the usage. They give us all the details about what is the usage, which all medium they're using it, how long they're going to use it, what size they want it. All those details are given and listed. And tomorrow we found out that they had actually used it for something which they not got a permission. We have all rights to sue them. So anything and everything related to your brand is protected, and it has to be protected in either copyrighted or through trademarks and regulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it also works the other way around, right? Especially, we have seen stories of how startups, as an example, or early stage companies, when you try to use your logo or when you are, when you're making presentations or anything else, be very careful about the things that you use from the internet, right? Just because you found something on Google search, an image or a logo or something, putting it on your presentation might not draw attention until you're really popular. But once you actually become prominent, right, then there'll be the others who actually come with legal cases against you.
Absolutely, yes. Anything.
I was also thinking, from a brand monitoring perspective, the monitoring is not just for the sensitive data of an organization, but also the organization's identity, right? And anything that identifies the organization should get monitored when we talk about brand monitoring. So, for example, if I take ICICI Bank, right? It's not just the name ICICI or the logo of ICICI Bank, but also the color scheme that is used in the on their website, right? So the bank gets identified based on their color scheme as well. So when somebody tries to set up a phishing website and they want to replicate it to look like ICICI Bank, they will also use the similar color scheme of the actual website of ICICI Bank, right? So the brand identity is not just the name and the logo, but also a lot of other things like your color schemes that you use on the website, the web design itself.
Yeah, even fonts. Sometimes there is I think at least 20% of the request clients are willing to create their own fonts. Now, if you look at it, there are even big, powerful brands which created their own fonts, so which you can't use it. you can't, and people can get it on net, or it's not even available on net unless an agency share outside through their network. And people have taken that and used it, and they can actually file what do you call, a case against them, and if you use their unique fonts. That is also even the fonts, just below, that is the level of things which we can look at.
So
Once,
Anand,
yeah, Karthik.
just I thought of a question. So when we have logos and Wordmark and all, we apply for trademark for those, right? So that others can't use it.
Yeah.
Similarly, is there a way I can prevent others from reusing my website design? Can I say no other organization or entity should have the same color scheme and panels that I am using in my on my website?
You can, but it is difficult
So
to
Karthik,
monitor.
we can patent it. We can
It will be difficult to monitor in that sense because
Correct.
I'm
Anand,
sorry.
it's difficult to
Karthik.
monitor, but
There are
then
to monitor that. Even the paragraph what you written in your website, if the same paragraph is used in the other website, we can get about
That
it.
can be monitored. That can be monitored, definitely. But the thing is that overall structure, if somebody try to copy it, it will be difficult to find it out, because if there is an AI tool to crawl the and in the net web and find it out, I'm not sure how it can find out, because there are certain things which can be digitally tracked. For example, I remember I told you about the image used for a big company which I was working for. That image, instead of $18, finally client has to pay $10,000 to settle the case. Now that was tracked with some AI tool which figured out that no, after that particular 6 months usage, it has to be pulled down from the site, which was not done. And immediately within a couple of days, they figured out, they got a mail saying that no, you had solved 6 months, you not pulled it out, or you used it without rights, and this is the case. Now $18 and $10,000, that is a difference sometimes. Now today there are people doing it, again changing the coding of that particular image to what you call backend. There are various ways people are doing it. They create another website where they keep it as a dummy thing, and then try to route the tracking over there and try to use it here. So why do you do that? In the first place, no need. If you really want to use it, you want to pay $25 in extra rather than getting into a case, a legal suit of 10,000. That's all you need to do. Paragraphs, yes, definitely you can copy and paste and figure out somebody is using the same thing, and that is actually happening a lot of times, because a lot of people copy paste and try to fine tune the way they do language twisting. That is also happening. You cannot help it, but what to do?
and from a legal perspective, all these design elements. So Karthik, H.A.K covered it in the previous session, right? So from a legal perspective, one can actually apply for design patent.
Okay. Yes. I think there is something. Yeah.
That complements your trademark, wordmark, copyright, and your design patent.
Okay.
I mean, detecting it is harder, but I mean, all these things only surface when you become important enough, right? That when a company actually goes in for a round of funding and there is a due diligence and somebody finds out that the color scheme or whatever is very similar to a competitor. There are stories of all that, but so that can be covered.
Absolutely, yeah. Great.
Hey, so from a time check perspective, so we're just about running out of time. We have about 5 more minutes. So do we anyone else? Does anyone else have any other question for Anand? And this is again, I mean, this is an eye-opening thing. And like Nanda mentioned, branding, I think for startups is something people assume that it costs a lot, and in many cases it does. So people definitely go and just work with the logo. And at least from a technology perspective, it makes, because initially you want to build, you want a solution to a real problem. And without that, having any amount of, any number of logos or color schemes and other things might not really matter. So what I've seen is startups actually do this iteratively, just like Nanda mentioned, right? So and even Karthik was talking about rebranding. So you start small, pick up something, pick a logo, pick some, have the vision, go to the market, build something, start getting traction, get customers, and then as your story evolves, as it sort of crystallizes, then you start investing in in a better sort of overall branding strategy.
Absolutely. So I think just to add to that, I think it was H.A.C.K, right, who asked this question. So okay, so if it is very early stage, okay, now the logo is the only constraint. I would urge you to go back to the basic thinking of a brand. Like as I said, no, when Rajiv asked the first question, that when do you really need to think about branding? Now, since you know there is a larger picture to branding, it is better to look at that as the starting point. Logo can come later. It's okay. So if you understood or look at the entire aspects of it, bring in what your brand should communicate, what the values are, define it. A lot of things will fall into place. And the moment when you brief an agency or a partner, branding partner, they know that no, you are clear in your thoughts, or maybe the founder's vision has to reflect in everything and anything you do, and that will guide you and the partner or agencies, whoever are going to work with you, and it will also define your employees, to the way you work with your associates, your collaborators. uh, it defines you, and you as a person, as a founder, will also will be, for example, as I was referring to personal branding of founder. While you do the branding for your company, personal branding doesn't mean that you should be visible in TV shows or on all the newspapers. No, it can be even your Twitter account, which talking about certain discoveries in the world, or no, people see you as that. So you have to look at all these aspects together, and all the visible elements can come through. And once you have this foundation clear, everything else, what is going to be there will also reflect that in some way or other. So I would say, that is the best thing to do. And everything else, as I said, there is a financial constraint, doesn't matter, because these are normal things. Anybody, any the biggest company also have financial constraint. They also have budget cuts. Doesn't matter. So it will come through. If your vision is clear, things will just fall into place. For me, I'm talking about myself as a entrepreneur, or who started my own. I seen it. It is, if you have that in mind, you set the sail in that direction, it will just go through. It just come through. The budget will come through, and you will know exactly. You don't need to spend that much. You find the right partner, and you have proper vision. Everything is clear. You yourself will change in that sense. That is my kind of suggestion or recommendation. Nothing more to that. Hello. Hello.
Yes,
Rajiv. Yeah. Okay. I was on mute or something, or you heard me talking, or it's
No,
gone?
we heard you.
Okay.
Probably Rajiv is not audible.
Okay.
I don't think there are any more questions. So there's a question from Anand from Riaz. Please do share if aware of any tools, open source online services that can help in branding promotion.
Okay, I'm sorry. Online services.
Are there any
sorry.
open source tools for, for example, video creation, logo, collaterals?
Okay, now there are tools over there. Again, it is. I normally don't follow that because we do our own branding and advisory, so that's one. But I can definitely figure out a few. The plus and minus of that is again that won't give you that intelligence or guidance in terms of what you should be doing, understanding you. It will just it completely take the input you given, the feed in and feed out will come based on certain criteria which may not be right for you in that sense. So it is always good to get the right advisory or recommendations or those particular processes clear to do it rather than initially at least to get into those things which is again all programmed, and it may not be exactly programmed for what you need and what is your position or what is your positioning or your attributes or what you want to look at. So values in that terms, it's not defined in a AI scenario. It is more subjective rather than objective, right? So you need to look at that aspects. But there are tools, but especially I can find it out, but we usually recommend you talk to people who has done it, who you want to partner in a long term. That would be the right thing. But if you think it that the other way, definitely we can share a few offline. You can look at it.
Thank you, Anand.
Fine. I think are we on?
All right.
I think 11. Yeah. Good. I think we planned it so well. Good.
Fantastic. All right. So if there are no further questions, then we would like to thank Anand for taking all this time and effort for educating us wonderfully on this broad topic of branding, which a lot of the startups at least sort of view it from a very short-term perspective, and in some cases maybe rightfully so, in an iterative fashion. Think about logo or think about the messaging, like Anand mentioned. Have that. It doesn't have to be all look and feel and very broad from the day one. So hopefully this has been useful, and we shall share. If you have any feedback, please do write to us. You have our email IDs, and we might also share a Google form in coming weeks. So with that, thank you again, Anand.
It's wonderful talking to